This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 155, 2015 Year in Review, and a look ahead to 2016. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you attract and retain business through the power of quality content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is December 31st, 2015. Hello, or as we say in Texas, howdy, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. I have to apologize again for my scratchy voice. I am still fighting this goofy cold and losing. Well, I scratch that. I am getting better, but you know, I'm one of these people who just does not get sick, and I don't do sick very well. So looking forward to getting over this crud. Okay, just a reminder, we are live on iTunes and on Stitcher. So if you're listening to this episode on the blog, you can click on over and subscribe. And if you use a different app for your podcast listening pleasure, we also have an RSS feed, and I will provide that link in the blog post. To learn more about content marketing, I invite you to download our free audio, 5 Things You Must Know About Content Marketing at contentmarketingaudio.com. Last week, we had a little fun on our Christmas Eve episode by tapping into pop culture vibe with a look at storytelling and Star Wars. If you happen to miss that episode, feel free to check it out on iTunes or Stitcher or via our RSS feed. Today, on this last day of 2015, we are taking a look back at some of the major developments that shaped the content marketing world this year, and we take a look ahead at 2016. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. First up on this week's news feed, a super cool feature on YouTube. YouTube has introduced, get this, interactive 360-degree storytelling. This is a seriously cool feature. I just tried it on my iPhone, and apparently there are even more cool features on the Android app. So what you do, it's a special type of video, and you pull it up on your phone, and it probably works on tablets as well. I haven't tried it. But as you move your phone around, it actually changes the perspective from which you see the action going on. So if you move your phone to the left, the camera, if you will, the perspective pans over to the left. If you move your phone up, the perspective shifts up to the sky. It is really, really super cool. And apparently on the Android app, I don't know if this is currently available or on the way, you can actually tap on areas of the visual to unlock certain parts of the story. So the way I found this out was that YouTube released a video for the holidays using this technology, and it's called Special Delivery. It is a Google Spotlight story with kind of a holiday theme, and it illustrates this technology at work. It is way, way cool. So if you want to check it out, go to YouTube. Now you have to be on your phone and probably on your tablet, but definitely on your phone. Go to your YouTube app and search for Special Delivery, and it will pull up this cool little cartoon. So what does this mean for marketers? This means, the applications of this are just, I can't even begin. If you want to highlight a product, if you created a new physical product, you could actually give people a tour in this video, and they can control that tour themselves. So if they want to zoom in on a specific part of that product, or if they want to look to the left or look to the right, what does it look like from the top? They can manage their own experience. Or if you are highlighting a conference, maybe you are presenting a conference and you broadcast a YouTube video using this technology. People can create their own experience. They can pan left, they can pan right, they can see who's there, they can hear what's going on, and again, create their own experience. So I can see tons of applications for this technology for marketing. Not being a techie, I don't know what all goes into creating one of these videos, but it's definitely something that is going to offer marketers a very powerful tool. So again, if you want to see this technology in action, go to YouTube on your smartphone and pull up, search for a video called Special Delivery. It's a fun little cartoon. And then as you watch it, make sure you move your phone around so that you can see this 360-degree experience. And again, I apologize for the sniffles. Okay, bye, Soph. Okay, had a pug on my lap, and she has decided to go elsewhere. Okay, some news out of Blab. This is a cool feature. Blab, if you'll recall, is a live video broadcast app that has a panel style feature. So you can have up to 4 presenters, and they will actually be presented in a grid format, as opposed to other apps such as Periscope, which only have one person on screen at the time. But Blab's new feature is an audience map. So if you are creating a Blab, you can actually pull it up and see where your audience is geographically, which is pretty cool. We can see, do we have more viewers on the East Coast or the West Coast, or who's joining us from Australia, et cetera, et cetera. Good stuff from Blab. Okay, some more news, and this is actually a new app that I just learned about. Adobe has created a new mobile app called Adobe Post. And what this does is it's a new app currently only for iOS devices. And it lets you create social media graphics. So you can use some of their preloaded templates. You can upload photos. You can apply filters. You can add text. And then you can size it for the mobile app size it for the social network all from your mobile device. So if you're interested, just grab your iOS device if you had one and go to search for Adobe Post. Very cool stuff. Okay, our content hit of the week is a post called The 5 Biggest SEO Lessons We Learned in 2015. This was written by Jason Demers over on the Forbes site. Now, I know one of the burdens that I bear as a content marketer, one of the least favorite aspects of my job is having to keep up with changes in the search engine world. Because we have to. We have to make sure that our content is going to be found. And one way to do that is by keeping up with changes in SEO, which just chaps me to no end. Sometimes I'm just like, can't I just write pretty words? I just want to write pretty words. But no, we have to keep up with those SEO developments. And what I like about this piece is that Jason very neatly sums up the 5 biggest things we learned in 2015. Not necessarily major developments, but things that kind of started to seep into our strategies because they became such a prominent part of keeping up with the world of SEO. And there were a couple that surprised me when I saw them, but they actually made total sense. For example, the impact of assistant apps like Siri on search and how it's changing the way people search when they're speaking those searches instead of typing them in. So anyway, it's a very interesting article, and I recommend that you check it out. And to that end, I will share a link to it in the blog post for this episode. Okay, that's it for this week's news feed. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please shoot it on over to us so that we can share. Now it's time for this week's Spotlight segment, 2015 Year in Review, and a look ahead at 2016. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? That song always makes me think of that scene in When Harry Met Sally, where he says, what does the song mean? We sing it every year. We have no idea what it means. But whether you are key to the secrets of Old Lang Syne or not, this is the last day of 2015. So therefore, a time for retrospectives and prospectives. So looking back and looking forward. And in preparing for this episode, I went back and took a look at the major headlines of 2015. And my conclusion, dare I say, 2015 was kind of a quiet year for us content marketers. We had nothing really earth-shattering to really affect the way that we get our jobs done. And that got me to thinking, well, did nothing earth-shattering happen, or are we so used to living in a constant state of disruption that it just doesn't faze us anymore? regardless, it was a pretty quiet year, and I was thinking, oh, why that's why I got so much done this year, because I wasn't constantly having to retool and adjust to major developments, and it was kind of nice. But that being said, there were a couple of, I will say, big-ish developments. I won't say they totally rocked our world, but they definitely made things interesting. The first of those was, of course, the rise of live streaming video. I think this was really the biggest development in 2015. Back in February, the app Meerkat debuted at South by Southwest and garnered a great deal of attention. And then, of course, Twitter followed up by purchasing Periscope, and then the rest is sort of history. Now, live streaming video, it's one of those new but not new things. I know my friends at Ustream have had a mobile live video streaming app since, I want to say, like 2010. But the big difference with these new apps was that they were integrated with social media. The big draw for Meerkat was that as soon as you started broadcasting, it would immediately tweet out automatically the link to your feed. And then, of course, Twitter got in the game with Periscope, and now we hear Facebook is creating its own version of live streaming video. So, pardon me, please. So it's definitely here to stay. It's not a fad. It's going to be with us for, I think, for quite a long time. Now, I have a confession to make, folks. I have not yet figured out how to integrate live streaming video into my own marketing. I sit at a desk and do stuff all day, and I'm really kind of at a loss for, okay, what would I Periscope? I've toyed with the idea of broadcasting the sessions where I record this podcast. I don't know if anyone would be remotely interested in that, but streaming video has definitely been brought into the mainstream, and many marketers are jumping on board, and many are having tremendous success. So if you make just one adjustment to your strategy for 2016, or not even an adjustment, just sit down and think, maybe sit down with your team and brainstorm about how you might want to think about adding streaming video, because it is hot, 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 and likely to remain so in the new year. The second big development, which was it was almost a non-development. It was Mobilegeddon. Remember that? Back in April, Google announced that it would be further penalizing sites that were not optimized for an experience on a mobile device. Now, really, this was nothing new. Okay, Google has been using mobile optimization as a ranking feature for years. And this recent update just kind of upped the importance of mobile optimization. Sorry, folks. So it caused a huge amount of buzz and lots of hand-wringing, and we were all very worried about it, but then it kind of settled down. But really, folks, this is 2015, or it is for a few more hours anyway. If your site is not optimized for mobile devices, if you still have users pinching and zooming and sliding to navigate around your homepage, shame on you. So if you're still that one size fits all website, pardon my French, but get that shit fixed in 2016. I do not want to see you losing traffic and, God forbid, losing business in 2016 because your website is not with the program. And I apologize for Cooter in the background. He is in a mood today. Okay, and then the rest of the stuff that I uncovered in reviewing these headlines were really continuations on themes from previous years. For example, social video. In 2015, Twitter actually added native uploads of video. We just talked about live video streaming, which of course factors in. And now Facebook is rivaling YouTube in terms of the number of views. In fact, some people are saying it is now surpassing YouTube in terms of the number of views and the number of interactions. So social video continues to occupy a very prominent place on the content marketer stage. Now, here's what I'm wondering. I wonder if 2016 will be the year that LinkedIn finally jumps on the video bandwagon. What do you think? You think they will? I don't know. On the one hand, they see what's going on Facebook and they don't want to lose out on that. But on the other hand, I think they're afraid what will happen. That they're going to start seeing, news feeds filled with stupid cat videos. So I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Another theme that I noticed for this year is the social media at work theme. Social networks are trying to tap into businesses to get behind that firewall and to get inside of businesses to enable better collaboration as an alternative to email, where teams can share content, where they can collaborate, where they can leave feedback, and eliminate those endless email threads. That's the word I'm thinking about. Back in April, LinkedIn launched an app called Elevate, which was geared toward this purpose. We've, of course, been hearing about Facebook at work, and then Canva, which is not necessarily a social network, but Canva launched Canva at Work, which allows teams to create their visuals and collaborate. And it's funny. I definitely recall talking about this in prior years. This is not a new issue, but it seems to have kind of stalled. It's not really moving forward at the pace we might expect it to. And I wonder if that trust issue is becoming a real roadblock. Are businesses willing to trust social networks regardless of how many assurances they have about security and firewalls and blah, blah, blah? Are they willing to make that leap? When GE has engineers collaborating on a new airplane engine, do they really want to trust Facebook with that collaboration? And of course, Facebook can swear up, down, and sideways about security and multi-level, blah, blah, blah. But I still think when it comes to social networks, that trust issue is not going to go away. It's not going to go away. I know for my team, we use Asana to collaborate, and it's just fine, and we see no reason to use something else because it is secure. You do need to log in. And I wonder if, when Facebook becomes Facebook at Work, is it going to be a case of, oh, gee, I thought I was sharing this with my team, and I shared it with my entire Facebook network. Oh my gosh, blah, 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 major leak. I don't know. So we'll have to see how that plays out in 2016, whether social at work moves forward or whether it's dead in the water. And then the final theme that I noticed continuing in 2015 was a renewed focus on long-form content. Back in January, LinkedIn opened its publishing feature to all English-speaking countries. And then later in the year, Facebook actually revamped its notes feature to be more blog-like, to have more visuals and a little bit more features. And I think what these folks are trying to do, maybe not LinkedIn, but definitely Facebook, they're trying to tap into the success of long-form content apps like Medium. And, I see this as a positive. I really do. I think long-form content is a very important differentiator because it takes a certain caliber of a writer to create a long-form post as opposed to something that you just dash off in a couple of hundred words, unless, of course, you're Seth Godin, which I'm not. But I really... I'm curious to see where this goes because as attention spans get shorter and shorter, in fact, we talked to Frank Dana about micro content just a couple of weeks ago. It'll be interesting to see where long form content goes. And I'll come back to this in just a minute when I talk about things to look for in the coming year. Speaking of which, what can we expect in 2016? Or what advice can we take with us as we face this new year? We've got our strategies in place. What do we need to have on our minds as we move into 2016? The first thing I talked about was live streaming video, and it's definitely here to stay. It is not going anywhere. It's not a fad. Periscope is tremendously popular. Facebook is looking into getting in on the game, and you remember what happened when Facebook got in on the game of recorded video on demand. I mean, they're about to overtake YouTube. So, live video, we can't ignore it anymore. Now, does it mean you have to jump in with both feet? No. I certainly haven't. Like, as I admitted, I've not yet figured out a way to work it into my marketing plan, but I'm going to start experimenting. I'm going to start looking at it and say, okay, what can I put out there on Periscope? And how can I engage people that way? So at least take a look at live streaming video. Sit down with your team, brainstorm some possibilities, look at who else is out there, maybe people from your industry who are using these apps and gaining success with live streaming video. Excuse me. Sorry, folks. Another thing is video as a whole is
increasingly taking over the online experience. Video is, I mean, and I've shared these statistics before, it's just taking over. And I think by 2018, they're predicting that 85% of all website content will be in video format. So if you have been on the fence about making video a permanent and frequent part of your strategy, this is the time to get off the fence, folks. We've got to get in the game. People are expecting video, and people who don't do video, those brands who have not yet embraced video, they're being looked on as kind of behind the curve. So if you have been postponing adding video to your content, this is the year to do it. Okay, we talked about Mobilegeddon, or the issue, non-issue that was Mobilegeddon. We are getting to the point where mobile is going to cease to be called mobile. You know, traditionally we look at mobile as kind of the poorer cousin to the desktop experience. It's kind of a pared down, kind of, lame in some aspects. But increasingly mobile is becoming its own version of the web. For example, that Adobe app that I talked about a few minutes ago, that's not available on desktop. That is mobile only. So mobile is, it's taking over. I don't think it's overtaking desktop, but it's definitely becoming its own, even more of a force to be reckoned with. And pretty soon, it's just all going to be the web, folks. We're not going to be talking about desktop versus smartphones versus tablets. It's all going to be one experience. So as content marketers, we need to always be thinking about that mobile audience, those people who are engaging with your content on their mobile devices. And if you don't think people are using mobile apps to access your content, you're probably wrong. So let's start looking at ways we can better serve those mobile audiences. And then finally, long form content. As I said, this is a big differentiator for 2016. It takes a certain caliber of content creator to create a good piece of long form content. And long form content is being rewarded. I mean, there are actual studies that show Google actually gives preference to longer form content. Now, they're all anecdotal because, of course, Google is not going to show us its cards. But independent kind of one-off studies have shown that Google rewards long-term content because, all other things being equal, longer form content is more likely to be better quality because it does require more thought. It does require more insight. Also, additional studies show that longer form content actually gets shared more than shorter content. So this is not just something that's nice to do, so that an excuse to hone our writing skills. And when I talk to clients about producing longer form content, I get a lot of eye rolls. They say, nobody's going to read all that, please. Here's the dirty little secret. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they pore over every single word of that 1,200 word post. The point is that we read by scanning. When we're online, we scan. We don't read every single word, but we get the idea and we get the concepts. And I'm reminded of my interview with Joe Polizzi a few weeks ago when we were talking about his new book. And I was talking about the content overload. And he said, let me ask you something, Rachel. What's the best-selling book of all time? I said, well, I have heard that it's the Bible. He said, you're absolutely right. How many people have read it? Okay, point taken. And it is a war out there, folks. As content marketing becomes more and more mainstream, more and more companies are getting on board. There are billions and billions of bytes worth of content being created every second of every day. So we need to latch onto any advantage we can grab in differentiating ourselves. And long-form content is one way to do that. So as you prepare to enter 2016 and take that one final look at your strategy before we launch, make sure that long-form content is making an appearance, because it's one of those differentiators that's going to help us stand out and get more traffic and get more eyeballs on the beautiful content that we are creating. Okay, that is my stuffy take on what shaped our world as content marketers in 2015 and how we can face the new year with confidence. If you have any questions or want to add to the conversation, I would love to hear from you. And the best way to reach me is through our website, resonancecontent.com. We've got a contact form there contact us form there, and also links to our social media pages. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. If you've been hanging out with me for a while, you may recall that I abhor New Year's resolutions. I hate them. I don't think they work. I think they're self-sabotaging. We make them, we break them, and then we feel even worse about ourselves than before we even made them. So the practice that I use to approach the new year is I pick a word. I pick a word to serve as kind of my North Star in the coming year. And it's been a good practice. It's just one word to keep in mind as I go throughout the year. Very, very simple. And my word, I have chosen my word for 2016, and it is heart. If you joined me last week for our Star Wars episode, you may recall I talked about how I was thinking about the Star Wars saga and how the story has really ceased to become a story and become a franchise. And I've been thinking about that in terms of my own content. Has my content become a franchise? Have I been so wrapped up in SEO keywords and newsjacking and buzzworthy and what other people are talking about that I've lost that storyteller's heart, something that really comes from me, from myself, from my experiences, and from my stories. So heart is going to be my word for 2016. I invite you to try this practice. It's actually kind of a lot of fun to pick your word and share it with me. I would love to hear your word for 2016. So when you decide on it, please tweet it to me at my Twitter ID is at Resonance CONT. So it's Resonance Content with the ENT lopped off. And let's go ahead and use the hashtag word for 2016. I'm going to put mine out there just to get it on the record. And please let me know what your word for 2016 is going to be. Okay, campers, that is it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I apologize again for the sniffling and the stuffiness and the occasional hacking. God willing, this cold will be behind me by the next time we get together. If you like what you've heard today, coughing aside, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. Also, if you want to learn more about content marketing, I invite you to download our free resource, 5 Things You Must Know About Content Marketing. You can get your very own copy at contentmarketingaudio.com. As always, I like to leave you with a quote, and today's comes from country singer Brad Paisley. So I'm going to read it with a little bit of a twang. Brad once said, quote, "Tomorrow is the first blank page of a 365-page book. Write a good one," unquote. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. I wish you a beautiful, festive, and very happy New Year's celebration with your friends and family. And please do me a favor. Please be careful out there. If you're going to be out and about, please be careful, because I want to see everybody back here safe and sound next week when we kick off 2016. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you again next week. Take care.